Christmas bells are calling, hear carols in the air. Watch the snowflakes falling, see bright lights everywhere. No matter where I go, no matter what I do, the one thing that I know is that Christmas is you.
A Night at the Nutcracker. I love the Marx Brothers. Didn't we come up with the best cast of Marx Brothers? We couldn't have done better. This was the West Coast premiere, so the writer Billy Van Zandt came out, as well as some of the actors that had done it. At a college at the East Coast, they came out to see it, and they said that your brother Nick Ceglio was the best Groucho they could imagine. He was incarnate.
I mean, hands down. I mean, so much so, to be quite honest with you, that I was doing Groucho stuff in LA. And then I did a day in Hollywood, night in the Ukraine with Palo Alto Players, played Groucho. And I couldn't hold a candle. I really couldn't. And I brought what I would bring to it. But still, I when I go back and I see what he did with that role, I mean,
yeah,
hands down, still to this day, the best Groucho I've ever seen.
I'm not usually this forward, but I can't help myself. Do you like my dress?
Where is it? Mine? Why, yes, I do. That dress must be from Bangkok.
Bangkok? Why would you say that?
Because when you sit down, I can see Thailand.
Do you really like it?
Oh, yeah, red's a good color on you. I had another joke here, but it was off color.
Partially because the cynicism, the dry humor of Groucho is Nick Ceglio.
Yeah.
Like,
how is that?
And he got it. And when we were doing it together, I was like, it needs to be like this, you know. It needs to be. I need you to watch Bugs Bunny. I need you to watch Bugs Bunny. It's very Bugs Bunny. And he was like, so it's just Mel Blanc and Bugs Bunny. I'm like, well, yeah, that's what Bugs Bunny is. They took from the Marx Brothers. I'm like, that's exactly what it is. And then once we had that conversation, it was done. I mean, he got it all. The pauses, the looks, the cadence. They all Max Bennett Parker as Chico and Matt Dunn as Harpo. They found more moments as it went along. You know, it was just fantastic.
And it helped a lot that Max plays the piano so well, because I mean, it's just like it just totally fit. It was unbelievable. And I will say the other characters in there. Let's see, David
Jackson, right?
Jackson played the straight man, and Ariel played this was the couple that's in every Marx Brothers movie, and then the older woman that always gets knocked down.
Yep. The Margaret Dumont.
Margaret Dumont was
stereotype.
Played by Liz Hodgen, yes, and she was fantastic. Boy, she could take a blow, she could take an insult.
And you know, and what's so interesting too is, man, I remember seeing people were like, they're so mean to you. You are gorgeous. You are gorgeous. And you know, I remember Liz and I used to laugh all the time, where it's like, well, yeah, that's the whole point. Like, if you watch the Marx Brothers, you know, Margaret Dumont, yeah, she's a tall lady, you know, but she's gorgeous. She's an absolutely beautiful, stern woman. But yeah, but that's the whole point. She's there. She's kind of like the Charlie Brown. She's the punching bag, you know, and an interesting reflection of that time. And it was definitely hard to watch. I mean, there were some jokes in there. I mean, you remember we had to reach out to, Billy Van Zandt and Jane Millmore, who's also the co-author. And there were a couple in there where we were like, dude, you know, Santa Cruz audiences are not going to be cool with this. You know, and they're like, but it works. And we're like, well, in New York, it might work, but California is a little different. And, but that was one of them. People were like, they were so rude to that woman. And I'm like, but Liz was like, I think it's hilarious. She's like, I know I'm beautiful. But yeah, she got pummeled through that whole thing. But her reactions, I mean, they really understood the style and the melodrama of it, and just her, oh, you know, and how she would, you know, just throw it off and walk away. And it was just fantastic.
And the villain and the vamp, Eleanor Hunter, and
Adam Salcedo.
yes, perfect. I mean, she was the perfect in that role. You know, just voluptuous and in red all the time.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Now, when I remember where we butted heads. I took you out to breakfast, or maybe you took me one morning, and you suggest that we cut the orchestra from the work,
I
and I
did.
just, whoa, I couldn't believe it. I know. I'm going to let you explain that because it
Sure.
had to do with protecting your actors again, and that's what you want to do. So,
Yeah, well, I mean, it was for protecting my actors, but it was also for the functionality of the comedy style. You know, which I fought really hard for. That was a rough day because, and I remember when we left, I mean, you were like, I've lost my appetite, you know, and I was not stoked about asking for that, but yeah, the music that we had, because the second half was all the Tchaikovsky music.
yeah.
But they're outside of the Tchaikovsky music as written. We didn't have a score, you know, for it. It wasn't like a specific score or anything, or
Yeah.
but I can't remember. We only had, that's right, we only had a piano player for our rehearsals and stuff, and
Right.
we had developed it at a specific speed, and you had given me a CD with stuff with the Tchaikovsky tracks, and so we used a lot of that stuff. And then when we got the orchestra in there, comparatively to what the actors had rehearsed and what I had choreographed and blocked, it was slower comparatively, but that's because we were using different stuff, you know. And
You told me we've got a problem.
well, and again, to your credit, we didn't, you know, you didn't shut everything down. You let
No.
me speak my mind. You let me say what I had to say. Ultimately, your decision was no, we're not going to do it. But yeah, it was because it wasn't as funny when it wasn't that fast, and because it was the style that I had put to it was almost Benny Hillish. It was like, if we could only just push a fast forward button, you know, you know, but also the safety. Some of the things I had them doing, it wasn't safe for them to be going so slow, and the movement, you know, of course, we're all going to bring different ideas to the table to execute what we think is going to be, you know, the best for the project. So what happens is, you know, the best case scenario, when I say to you, I want to cut these guys, and you go, well, that's not going to happen. Well, we can't just stop there. So we got to agree to disagree. So how do we fix that? And that's what we did from there. Is you went to the table and you were like, here's what we can do.
Yeah.
And here's what I'm going to push. And here's what I'm going to make sure that you have. And as a result, in exchange for me, I was like, okay.
So my role, you know, in many shows is I'm always the artistic director of every show, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm also musical director. So when you told me that, it confirmed my feeling of failure as musical director,
Oh man.
and it confronted the artistic director with something he can't do, because the whole mission, I think I told you, the whole mission statement, the
Yeah.
whole
Live
Cabrillo
orchestra.
stage is all about live orchestra. It will never, it will, as far as I'm concerned, it will cease to exist if we start using recordings, even just a rehearsal pianist, you know, I mean,
Yeah.
right, you know, in that show, we rose up out of the pit when the Nutcracker started, which was, that's probably the one thing I heard the most about besides the
Oh yeah.
and and so I think we solved the problem. You know, I brought, the orchestra got better. I brought the tempos up, but again, we got to work with the composer arranger.
Yeah.
And he,
And they you know, it was a challenge too. You know, they were protecting their work as well. But
yeah.
you know, man, I remember I got a chance to view some of the archival footage of that show. Obviously, that's for archives only. But man, in that second half, you can see, man, you are working your tail off. I think it's in particularly with the moment where Eleanor Hunter's character comes out with the big dress, Mother Ginger, I think it is,
Mother
in
Ginger,
Nutcracker, and it's that weird tempo, you know, boom, boom, dun, da, 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 da. You see Eleanor come out, you see the characters, but then what's catching your eye is right below the conductor being like, I mean, I don't know what section you're doing it to, but you are bam.
I'm dogging
You
them.
are laying out that tempo and what you want to keep it. And right there, I'm going, and there, that's what what more could you ask for? What more could you ask for? And that's the other thing too. Your orchestra members worked really hard on giving you that.
They
And,
did. They were.
you know, none of them walked out or quit. You know, they were probably pretty pissed at me, probably pretty pissed at you, but they were, you know, they pulled it through. And still to this day, man, I quote that show left and right. Left and right. It was still a joy.
Welcome, Mr. Filibuster.
Famous private eye, we're thrilled to meet you, Felix T.
If that's the case, goodbye.
Oh, please, we beg, don't leave.
But now I have to leave. The only reason I showed up is so that I could leave. I'm Felix Filibuster, not Palichum Buster, not being a General Custer. I'm Felix Filibuster.
He's Felix Filibuster.
I'm Felix Filibuster. No ifs, ands, or buts. You may think I'm nuts. I'm Felix Filibuster.
Good to meet you.
All right, the Marx Brothers, all right.
Hi, I'm Max Parker. I'm Peponi, the Chico Marx character in A Night at the Nutcracker at Cabrillo stage. I've been a big fan of the Marx Brothers since I was a really small child, so I'm really excited to get to play Chico. The funny thing about Chico is that his accent is half fake Italian and half New York. So it kind of comes out like this, and every once in a while you throw in a kind of a New York word, like wood or hamburger, and it kind of all is this crazy melange that's really hard to get just right. But I hope that I've done my best anyway.
Hi, I'm Liz Hodgin, and I am playing Mrs. Constance Stuffington in the Cabrillo stage production of A Night at the Nutcracker. This is the funniest Nutcracker you'll ever see, and you're even going to see me in a tutu, so don't miss it.
Hi, my name is Ariel Buck, and I am playing Edie in A Night at the Nutcracker. I am playing Mrs. Stuffington's dippy ingenue daughter, and myself and my boyfriend Eddie, or Edie and Eddie, are sort of the ringleaders in trying to get my mother's money away from her evil fiance. We were 2 weeks away from opening night, and what I have enjoyed most about this rehearsal process is the fact that I get to do some ballet again. I took many years of ballet as a child, and although it is interesting ballet, it's kind of the Nutcracker with a twist, but we guarantee you lots of laughs.
Hi, my name is Andrew Ceglio, and I'm the director and choreographer of Cabrillo Stage's A Night at the Nutcracker.
My name is Nicholas Ceglio. I'm playing Groucho Marx, a.k.a. Felix T. Filibuster.
And one of the great things about this production, what the audiences can hope to see, is a lot of really classic, iconic moments from the formulas of the Marx Brothers films, dating all the way back from their early years to later on. It's been a really great challenge, kind of bringing these characters to life and seeing them on stage, and it's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, I mean, everybody that's playing the Marx Brothers, just being able to tackle such iconic characters is definitely any actor's sort of, I guess, dream. Yeah, I don't know, like just to be able to try and find a way to balance your own interpretation of such a huge character that's sort of influenced everything from comedy to theater to, you name it. It's a really cool challenge, definitely. Yeah.
Can you give us a little Groucho?
I'm gonna have to see you when you come to the show. Maybe you'll see a little more.
Hi, I'm Adam Saucedo. You guys know me from A Chorus Line from the Summer. I'm Clyde Rachet, otherwise known as Ratchet. I'm the villain. I'm the villain. I play the bad guy, and I'm trying to steal everybody's money. And come see the Night at the Nutcracker. It's funny.
Today, we are really have the special privilege
of having the writer and the composer, the writer of A Night at the Nutcracker, Billy Van Zandt, and the composer, Ed Alton. Well, welcome, guys.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
I want to start off by saying I love the Marx Brothers. I mean, when I was 12 years old, I had posters in my room with the hookah pipe and all that stuff. One of my favorite comedy movies is Night at the Opera, and it's obvious that a lot of that show goes into your style or your idea for this one. And so I bought the script. I read it on the way home. I was sold immediately. We started getting production to director together, Andrew Ceglio, and suddenly we got a chance to work with you, Billy, and Jane, who also wrote the show, and then especially with Ed, because I was the musical director and he was the composer. We worked extensively together, and so it was a real plus. It was really a great learning experience, not only for our students, but for the professional musicians on our staff and the actors and everybody. Really, it was really a remarkable show, and it was a love fest. One of my favorite shows, frankly. So, Billy, you and Jane wrote this. Tell us where it originated, how you got started. Maybe start a little bit with your background so that we know where you're coming from.
All right. I started out as an actor. I started writing plays with Jane to give myself something to act in. And we did 25 plays altogether. And this one was right about in the middle, I would say. Right, Ed? I think right in the middle. And we had started out just writing farces. And after a while, it was too much of a routine of, the same sort of setup and same structure. And we started going off and doing different things. So we wrote a musical one year and dragged Ed into it called Merrily We Dance and Sing, only because we wanted to try something different and no one told us we couldn't, so we did it. And thank God for Ed that he made that whole show fantastic for us. This one came about because I was sitting on a Sunday afternoon, I was sitting with my kids watching A Night at the Opera on TV, and I said, oh, I wish I'd written for these guys. Oh, I wish I'd written for these guys. The next day I went into the office, and Jane came in, and she said, I know what I want to do. She said, I want to write a Christmas show. I said, well, I want to write a Marx Brothers musical. She immediately said, A Night at the Nutcracker. And I said, sold, let's do it. So we called up Ed. Jane and Ed wrote all the music, and Jane and I wrote the book, and boy, did we have fun. When you guys did it, it was the very first time we got to see it with live musicians, because we had done it on tracks. Ed had played all the different parts on tracks for us to sing to. But seeing your production, wow, to hear his arrangements done live, was that fantastic.
Hey, John, let me mention that Billy mentioned the first show that we did was Merrily We Dance and Sing, also published by Samuel French, by the way.
And we also did a musical together called The Pennies, which is, I love this show, and it's never been done on the West Coast. So think about that one.
So Jane, unfortunately, just passed away, and that's so sad. And at the same time, are you continuing your writing by yourself? So what happens when you lose a partner?
She died, and then the world shut down at the same time. So everything's on hold. But she got sick out of the blue. She didn't even know she was sick. She turned yellow one night. And I said, you're very, very yellow. She said, I am. And she went into the doctor and found out she had pancreatic cancer, had no symptoms whatsoever. And she fought that thing for 15 months. So she insisted that she and I work the entire time she was sick. So 2 days a week, I would drive out to her house, and we started working on things. And so we've got half-written scripts all over the place. So, well, I'll keep finishing those. We have a couple movie scripts, a couple of TV shows we wrote, and we got about 3 different plays that are half written. So I'll keep going. I'm not done yet.
So Ed, we spent a lot of time working on Night at the Nutcracker, and I have a lot of stories I could tell about you and I. But earlier in this broadcast, we talk about the struggle that the director and I had with getting the orchestra to be able to play those Tchaikovsky Nutcracker tempos fast enough. I think he says, he was trying for something a little closer to Benny Hill. And my string players are going, are you kidding? This is Tchaikovsky. But we have to say, first of all, you composed more than half the music to this, and then you arranged Tchaikovsky for basically a pit orchestra. And that right there is amazing. And especially since I imagine you do more composing than arranging anyway. Is that correct?
I do whatever's needed. In this case, it was both. It was an interesting challenge to take the Nutcracker and to rearrange it for 17 musicians.
Yeah.
Because it's such a gem of a composition that it was really interesting to kind of like look at it with the microscope and have to shrink it. So it was challenging, but it was interesting. It was fun.
I really loved some of the songs in the first half, and we've highlight a little bit of the archival film and earlier in this production or this episode. What inspired you? I mean, writing beautiful music for the Marx Brothers. I don't know what I'm trying to ask, but it's an odd thing to write music for, and yet they were musicians and they were excellent musicians.
Well, in terms of the music for the show, look, all three of us are huge Marx Brothers fans. So when Billy and Jane came to me and described this, I'm like, well, I know every movie by heart. So it's like I already had done my homework. I already knew the sound. I knew their style, and it was just a blast to just create music in the style of all these classic movies that we were all so familiar with.
That's what you did. You captured the style. We really had that 1930s, and we had a wonderful actor playing the kind of Zeppo part, David Jackson, who had this gorgeous, he has this gorgeous tenor voice that starts off this episode on your song, and it's a beautiful.
With sentimental sad, don't look so sad, the sun will soon show. Nothing's that bad, 'cause I love you so. Now dry your sweet tears and see the rainbow. There's nothing to fear because I love you so, dear.
Well, plus it was great. It was so great to hear the music played by live musicians, because that's what really brings it to life. And for our workshop productions, I had done it all on computer, and it was still pretty good, but nothing like the real thing. So, yeah. and plus with you, with the baton in your hand, conducting them, let's not forget that. That's also.
And I went for the 1930s look. I'm always a character, so I had tails and the small mustache. We have that great picture of you standing next to me in front of the thing. And then the orchestra rising out of the pit for the Nutcracker sequence was pretty remarkable too.
Yeah, everybody was in the spirit of it. I mean, the musicians dressed in the spirit of it. You dressed in the spirit of it.
They loved it. They loved playing it. The Tchaikovsky was hard, but they rose to the challenge. Now, when you have harpo in a show, and when you're transcribing Tchaikovsky music, it means one of the 17 players needs to be a harpist. The harpist in that show had to recalibrate different pedaling, or had to write the pedaling down. And I know I studied harp. I'm sure you did. I understand how they work, but what an amazing instrument where you can't really sight read on a harp unless you're totally diatonic.
Well, let me tell you that your harpist really saved my my tush, because even though, yes, we all in theory know how to write for harp, in theory we know how a harp works, and I was tried my best to put all the pedal changes and the right markings in, and she was so nice, but she said to me, you did a good job, but it's not really playable the way you wrote it, and I made a lot of changes, and I made it work. I actually hired her and paid her to edit the whole harp part.
That's right. I remember that.
So like in the revised version of the score after the show, the harp part is now playable thanks to her. So she was great.
I wanted to talk to you a little bit about what it's like to be a digital composer, to be working in the studio there. Maybe let us know, do you use Logic, what programs you might use, and what the process is from the beginning of the contract to the end of the thing in a general way for our music students here at Cabrillo College.
Well, I do use Logic, and really, I honestly, this goes back to, for every project, whenever I have the chance to use live musicians, that's always my first choice. But budgets for television don't allow it, like the good old days. So if I can, if there's enough money to bring in one player or two players, I do that, and then I do the rest myself. If I'm lucky enough to have a budget for a lot of players, and I go into a real studio. But pretty much it's on a computer nowadays. But let me point out that the part of the room you see right now, you can see computer monitors here. The part of the room you can't see is filled with guitars, basses, drums, because I play all those instruments. So even though I'm doing it all myself and I do use a computer, a lot of the music is still all being played live by me, just me. So I try to combine the real instruments with the electronic instruments so it sounds as real as possible.
I want to thank you, Billy and Ed, for being here with me today. And Billy, you have a book that you just published. Can you give us something about that so we can get people to read it?
The book is called Get in the Car, Jane. Adventures in the TV Wasteland. It's a memoir of all the TV shows that we wrote for. Every chapter is a different show that we wrote for, and they're all funny stories that I used to tell at dinner parties and stuff, and I put them all into a book. And you get to know Jane through the book too, which is great. It wasn't an intended idea. She got to read it. She edited it. She helped me pick the pictures for it before she passed away. But it turned out, I'm really happy with the way it turned out. You can get it on Amazon. You can get it at Barnes & Noble. And I hope you like it.
And Ed, any projects that you want to brag about? Maybe a TV show you say, well, that slapping bass on Seinfeld was me, or something like that?
Nothing in the room. Well, what's happening is that there's a short movie that I scored a while back that's now being made into a feature, and I'm doing pre-production work for that, which I'm really excited about.
Nice. What's it called? Do you know?
Well, yes, it's called Rated.
Rating.
Rated. R-A-T-E-D. Rated.
Nice. We'll look for it. And that's awesome. Thank you guys once again. Next week, we discuss the Cabrillo Stage 2015 production of Mary Poppins. We will talk to director Janie Scott and our technical team as we focus on some of the magic created by our imaginative production staff. All this and more next Thursday on The Stars of Cabrillo Stage.